to having this studies online. A lot of disruption. Not many people were ready for this. Internet, SIMU, laptop, all of this. And the school fees, people were laid off. There was a lot happening last year. And this is a continuation of something that we talked about, I think, last week, but one. We have two gentlemen in studio this morning from KIPS College. Karibuni sana.
Thank you.
Thank you so
And
much.
I'm happy we're having this conversation with you. And it's not out of like thin air or from whatever is happening. It's from an institution that has had to go through this. And I'd like for the both of you to introduce yourself. We'll start with you.
Evan Somoyo, the principal of KIPS Technical College.
I'm Shafad Mboro, the head of business development and student affairs in KIPS College.
Ah, good stuff. So we have the principal, and you're also taking care of what the students are going through, which is a good way to look at it.
True.
When that happened, we were shut down. Even as students, you didn't know what to do. You didn't know. So what do I do now? How did then, as a school, how did you handle that particular situation at the beginning?
I would say ideally that in the first closure of schools and learning institutions, just like everybody else, we were taken by surprise, I would mention, because everybody is experiencing a pandemic for the first time, and none of us were really prepared for such action as closure and a complete shutdown of institutions and organizations, especially as of last year in March.
Yeah.
So as an institution and many other institutions of our level, we had to sit and ask ourselves, literally model, what would happen if we stay closed for 3 months, if we stay closed for 6 months, for 1 year, what if we are closed for 2 years? So we had a model of every aspect of the institution and operations and what would happen at each stage. All the same, if I speak on our behalf as an institution, we were, of course, we remained closed for the month of April last year, although we were able to come back in the month of May with the online training. So since then, I would say we have never really literally ever closed down totally. So we are managing through the online program as much as it is not exactly a replacement of the physical kind of training, but that's how we are managing.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And that is from the school perspective and the management
Yes.
of that as
Yeah.
well. You deal with students.
Yes, yes.
And they, at that point, they're also confused. But now the school has come up with a platform where you can join in the month of May, that is. In the
Yes.
month of May last year, you can join classes online. And it was new.
Yes.
For some students, I understand there were some classes that were still going on even before with the online platform. But for those who were feeling like, I'm so lost, I'm so confused, I don't know what to do. I'm actually locked down now in Nairobi, Ushagokutu sijui ni wapi, I don't know what to do. How did you help them then? What advice did you give them? How did you handle it?
Okay, that's true. We had classes that were ongoing before now the presidential directive
Yes.
and the schools closing. So we had to also sit down and again, not everybody was tech savvy. So we had to take them through what this platform is, given that it was a new platform. We had to also train them. How do you log in? How do you maneuver the dashboard and all that, so that you are at par with where you left your physical classes. So it was quite a challenge, but ideally what we did is we engaged with them through calls, through text messages, trying to now introduce this new platform to them and how beneficial it will be to them, so that again they don't lag behind as the others are moving on or rather progressing with their studies. And I'll say the success rate was about 80%.
Wow.
Because at that time there are also those that wanted to clear up their studies so that they can take the exams. So the success rate was okay, and we were able now to proceed with our online platform, which even up to date is still it's robust and even growing more.
Okay.
Yes.
And I think it's a beautiful thing that you say that, because now looking back at what was available for the students to the new thing that is now available to them, some were used to it, some were not used to it. But then that's where we are at. I mean, about 17 million learners countrywide were disrupted.
True.
But comparing the two models, what would you say is best moving forward now that we've been exposed to something new?
What I will say is that, and my thinking really is because of the uncertainty of the pandemic. You know, 2 weeks apart, the president addressed the nation, and within those 2 weeks, he closed all learning institutions again for physical training, which is a pointer that this pandemic can be unpredictable. We can have these measures in place. The moment we reopen the economy, the surge again comes up, and we end up again closing, whether partially or not. So in our thinking as an institution, and this is when I speak about KIPS Technical College, I know this is what many also other institutions are doing, is currently we are under directive from the Ministry of Education to conduct all training online until there is a directive again to resume for physical training. However, the long term, or should I classify it as the short and mid-term, while this pandemic lasts, we should, as tertiary institutions, probably even universities, explore the options of having some programs purely online, you know, because I'm trying to take care of the population of students that are supposed to be gathering in classes at any one given point. So there are courses that can be delivered fully online. If you have a robust system like the one we are using, which is what the Ministry of Education has recommended for tertiary institutions, you should be able to deliver some of this content fully online. Then there is a blended one where part of the content is delivered online, which is mostly theoretical. Then you could have a few sessions for students or trainees to come in for practicals or for practical sessions. Then, of course, there is a category of trainees who may not be able to access this content online. Those few or a portion of them might therefore need to be coming to school physically. So there are those three models that in our own view, we feel that we must adopt if we are able to resume some level of normalcy as training institutions. Otherwise, if we remain stuck to we must do things physically, then I can assure every player and every stakeholder in this industry and the sector that it is not yet over.
That's
true.
The
disruptions are still yet to come. We have seen what's happening in India. You know, things were moving to an improved state, but then, you know, they took a turn, and now it's for the worse. So let us never sit back as stakeholders in this industry and in this sector of training and assume that there is a time this year, probably when we are going to start training physically fully and go ahead with it without other interruptions. I think we must always be ready for any interruption that may come our way.
So this was a good thing. Even in the bad things that are happening to everybody else, there was a good in it. Probably sort of like a future.
It is the future.
It is the future.
It is the future.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Let's talk about exams. And, you know, online supervision. Well, they are at home. It's not in class where they will be showing up physically. You have to make sure through the Zoom and whatever system that you're using that everybody is online, that they're doing the exams the way they're supposed to do them. How has that, you know, impacted the results or the performances of the students?
Well, I'd say there's a research that was done, and it shows that the performance for students on online might be, you know, a bit poor as compared to the physical classes. However, this is also dependent with the measures that an institution will take. I'll also maybe want to talk of now what us as KIPS Technical College, what we've done is measures that we've taken to ensure that, one, our students sit for the exams. Because, you know, at the liberty of you're doing exams at home, you can decide I won't do those exams. So we normally run mock exams to just test on how savvy or how good are the students equipped in, you know, managing or maneuvering through the dashboard so that they can submit these exams promptly. So it's just a mock to test. And with this, you'll also realize if you had maybe a trainer, lecturer had a list of like 50 students and only 45 of them are able to successfully do that, then the lecturer engages with these others, because you see they're also submitting their names, to find out why were they not able to either sit for the exams on time or even submit the exams. So that come now the D-Day, when they do these exams, they are fully equipped and ready to sit for the exams. This is just to minimize at least the turnout rate for these exams, to ensure that at least we achieve 95% of the students undertaking the exams.
Absolutely.
But I'd say in terms of the exams, our students have been performing fairly well, because there are parts that also in moderating the exams we'll have also as trainers to take consideration that these exams probably we might not be able to administer the very practical exams, so we'll majorly dwell on the theory and semi-practical exams.
And then wait for when that is the semi one that you're talking about, how when it's opened up, then they will come in and do the practical bit of it, but we have to wait for the directive from the Ministry of Education and all of that. But let's talk about the economy and the funding and making money as an institution, because that is also it's a business, right? And when the pandemic happened, people lost their jobs, parents to these kids. Some of them were not able to continue with their schooling, and I'm sure at KIPS you came up with some sort of model to just help them be able to just come to school even if, or study online, even if they don't have the full amount of money. But we can be sure that there's some who really did not make it. How has that effect been on the school and the lecturers as well, because they also need to feed their own families?
Yeah, true. What really is happening is that we were in a phase of recovery, most institutions in our level, because we were allowed to reopen in October for even physical classes. But we realized that probably 30% of the students who were enrolled for last year, January to March semester, before we closed due to the pandemic, never resumed when we immediately reopened. Now what's happening is a few of them are resuming over time, because probably their parents had to leave Nairobi after losing jobs and all that. So it is taking time for the parent and even the student, because we also have students who sponsor themselves from the income they earn, to recover first economically, meet their basic needs, and then consider going back to school. So and the effect is really not short term, because if somebody lost a job, they have to find another one, maybe at a different level of income. Then they have to stabilize first. They have to clear some debts they owe. And so then that's the time they can say, now we can go back to school, because especially people who are sponsoring themselves would not consider school as the very first basic need. They would want first to pay their rents, feed themselves.
So that is something that at KIPS you understand?
Yes, we do. And even what we do also as an institution is, fees is supposed to be paid upfront, but we are very understanding. We allow students to pay their fees even weekly, monthly, also to accommodate them, because at the end of the day, this wheel needs to be balanced.
That's true.
We need, the students to go to school. Of course, we also need the income.
Yes.
But none of them should take priority. It should be mutual, so that also we have a support system for this student to be able to go through school, to be able to complete, and really it's about their future.
That's true.
So we prefer to deal with the student as an individual, rather than grouping them and saying those who have not paid fees should stay at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I remember in college there would be, if you haven't paid school fees, you wouldn't get into the exam room. So there was a lot of that, but then things have changed. How has your life changed doing this, being able, or having to be able to be present for the students, listen to them, as your life changes as well?
Well, I'd say technology with the happenings, then we are also forced to be in tandem with technology. Right now, before the pandemic, it was more physical. Students who had issues would visit your office, you'd address the issues. But right now, a student won't really come to your office. So you have to be online, ideally WhatsApp, texts and calls. So there's also that change, because probably I wasn't used to, you know, getting calls, a lot of calls, a lot of WhatsApp messages
Yes.
on student issues.
Yes.
Now that has to change. I also have to be online almost all through to ensure that I'm addressing their issues and also listening to them. So I'd say largely, as much as I also have my own, you know, the personal life.
Yes.
Then with now it also reaches a point where you have to merge the two, so that the student doesn't feel, and you know, with students they won't really realize that you work from 8 to 5. For them, when they have,
I have
an
a
issue,
problem now.
right now I want
Help
to
me
solve
now.
exactly.
And that is
So,
your job. They would expect
yes,
you to
exactly,
do that.
yes.
It's your role, so you
True.
step in and also help with
True,
that.
true.
We're coming to the end of this conversation, and maybe we'll get a parting shot from both of you. We'll start with you, Evans.
I would say that in every negative situation, even to the level of a pandemic like we have now, there is always a silver lining.
That's true.
There is always either an opportunity that presents itself to those who are keen and looking, or there is a way that organizations, institutions may be forced to adjust their operations such that probably along the way, even they get to be more efficient,
Yes.
they get to even deliver more, or maybe even they get to serve more people or more customers. So I think rather than, as I said, sit back and, you know, mourn and grieve that we are in a pandemic, we have this problem, we don't know what will happen tomorrow. It's better for us to start looking at what then opportunities exist for us, whether it is in our normal business and how we do it, or in new areas of business, so that at the end of the day, I think that the forward-thinking, forward-looking organizations and individuals are the only ones who are going to successfully
That is so
go
true.
through such a situation.
Yeah, I think that's very powerful.
Yes.
That's very powerful. Thank you so much for that, Evans. And Shepherd, maybe your parting shot before we come to the end of the show?
Yes, mine, I'll want to target it now to the students.
Okay.
Because with the current situation, it has both the positive and the negative of it. So, and echoing what my principal has just said,
Yes.
instead of the students sitting back and, you know, it's all, you know, doom, there's also gloom in it, because with the students now having even more time, they can be engaged in research, you know, take a lot of, and also this comes with, you know, self-discipline,
Yes.
because you're able to discipline yourself that right now you're not within the school premises such that you have to be told, you know, you should be in class, you should. So that self-discipline, that this is the timetable, at this time I should be either logged in so that I can take this class, I can take this semester. It also now nurtures the student, and especially right now, because you know, we are talking of the youth, and they are at their, you know, drastic stage,
Yes.
where they are developing their
Yeah.
social and you know, physical development rather. So I think it's if they look at it from the positive side, then there'll be much more to gain than
Later,
lose.
instead of just grieving and
Grieving
just
and saying
dwelling
that,
in the
yeah,
moment right now.
exactly.
How can people get in touch with the school if they want to get into the school as well? Maybe social media handles, physical location, as well as we really can't, our time is really up.
Okay. For the social media, we have Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram handles, all the same. That is at KIPS Technical. That is, at KIPS Technical. Then our website, www.kips.ac.ke.
Okay.
And our receptions are
Yes.
open. We have 6 campuses within Nairobi. So maybe quickly I can just mention one is at Mirema, that is Zimmerman. We have another one at Greenspan Mall in Donholm.
Okay.
Then we have 3 within CBD, that is Philadelphia House, Afia Center, and Echo Chambers, opposite Fire Station.
Okay, you tried to be fast in that one. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. Our time is up.
too.
Thank you so much for tuning in. Let's do this all over again tomorrow. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And I can't wait for you to just tune in tomorrow. Kwaherini. Have a good day. Adios.